Okay, let me start by saying I hope that all your families and yourself are healthy and safe at this unprecedented time. Um, what an awful time in our history, and we're all having to find a new normal and start over. And there'll be some things that come out of this that we've learned for our lives in the future, and we'll probably appreciate things more. But to not be able to see you guys and talk to you on a every other day basis, and not be able to be around our players and our coaches, it's changed our lives. And I really realize probably I need to do a better job of opening up some other interests, because my interests are sports, my family, my faith, and my friends, and that's it. That's all I got. So I'm having to really be creative and try to look at some new and some different things. I also have to say that thanks to our first responders and our healthcare personnel, we're all being told to isolate ourselves and to run from the virus. And these heroes are having to go out and go right in the face of it, and put themselves at risk, their families at risk. And so they are real heroes right now, more than at any time I can remember in my life. So we need to keep our thoughts and prayers with those groups of people that are out there sacrificing their families for us. We challenged our team and our coaches at this time. We always say that great leaders turn crises into positives, and that's never been more true than now. So we've told our staff that you've got to reach out to your players in your room, your position guys. And they started class today online. They're resuming their off-season program today online, and it's different because Coach Hess has got a program for those that have weights available, and he's got a program for those that don't. So he's actually teaching guys in their own homes how to continue to be stronger, or at least maintain your strength without any weights. So he's got two different programs today. We've got our nutritionist, Kelsey Gomez, that's reaching out to every player and trying to make sure that their needs continue to be met. We're sending them things constantly, whether it's scholarship checks or whether it is nutritional needs that they have. That they had Jordans coming to them available for workouts, so we are sending those this morning. So we're trying to do everything within our within our capabilities of helping our guys to get a new routine and make sure that they move forward with that routine. And we're all creatures of a routine, and they're out of one. So now we've asked their parents, and we've asked them to help it. So we're having Zoom meetings with our academic counselors and us and the players. The faculty was taught last week how to teach classes online. So today, for the first time, our guys are actually online with their classes, and we'll have to see how that goes this afternoon as we're moving forward. The other thing is we have staff meetings a couple of times a week. We had one this morning for an hour, and our entire staff is on just like we are with Zoom. And what we're doing is talking about recruiting, and we're talking about each player. We're talking about the things that we would normally be talking about if we had our meetings and we're in the middle of spring practice. So as far as the future's concerned, who knows? I think the NCAA has said we can't have any off-campus recruiting until after April 15th. The CDC has said that basically our normal programming is shut down till May 9th. So who knows? Who knows what's next? People say, can you have spring practice? We've actually proposed that we might get 10 days of spring practice this summer, like a pro camp. And we could get in shorts for just an opportunity to get to see the freshmen and get to know a little bit more about them. Some have talked about tacking on maybe 5 extra days of practice in the fall. I'd rather see it in the summer if we have it. Some question whether we'll be able to have a full football season. Some question whether we'll be able to have any football season. Some have talked about canceling the out-of-conference games and just having the conference games. In my position, what I've got to do is look at the possibility of us having a summer workout with spring practice. So we've got to prepare for that. And my gosh, we've got time to do it now. And we also have to look at having a full season. If it's not a full season, we can adjust down, but it's hard to adjust up if you're not prepared. So we're fully preparing to have work this summer, and we're fully preparing to have a full preseason and season like normal when we get to the fall. We're also having counselors available to reach out for depression and anxiety, because this is tough stuff. And there's some hungry people out there. There's people without jobs, and some of our parents of our players have lost their jobs, and it's hard for the families to feed their kids, and that's a very difficult time. So we've got counseling like we normally do that is available for them, but we're in constant contact with our guys. And we felt like probably the most important thing right now is to over communicate. We want to talk to them and be available to them at all times, and anything they need, they can get. So, like Luke Ross, our trainer, sent a form out this morning, emailed the form to them. Do you need anything? And just check it and get back with us, and then we'll follow up as we do that, and we'll do that 2 or 3 different times a week. We also hired a new guy a couple of weeks ago that we're just announcing today. Kevin Donnelly is hired as our he is in charge of our high school relations position. And Kevin played for us when I was here. He's 13 years in the NFL with the Oilers, the Dolphins, and the Panthers. He was a high school coach some, and then worked at UNC Charlotte. And any time that we can hire somebody who went to school here, that loves this place, that played for us and experienced what it was like to play for us, and is qualified and very talented, we think that it really helps in a lot of different areas, but it helps us sell our program, because nobody knows it better than the Corey Hollidays and the Dwight Hoyers and the Rick Steinbachers and Tommy Thigpens and Dre Bly's, and now you add Kevin to this as well. So questions from anyone?
Yeah, go ahead and use the raise hand. All right, I see David Hale. So David, if you want to unmute and ask, go ahead.
Hey, Mack, thanks for doing this. Thanks for taking the time to put on a collared shirt, which no one else bothered to do, but I appreciate it. I'm just curious, happen next, but if this all kind of went best case scenario, what would still be some of the ripple effects or repercussions in your mind that you need to be kind of aware of and prepared for as the season goes, would potentially kick off? Is it a matter of, academics that could be an issue for some guys, or just nutrition and weight training that they're not getting normally? Or where do you see some of maybe the biggest potential lingering effects even after this gets hopefully wrapped up sooner than later?
Yeah, David, first we have to try to make sure that their mental health is good. You've got to be aware of depression, and this is an age where depression, it can be really serious with these guys. So we're looking at mental health first. Secondly, academically, they have to continue to make progress toward a degree. The way I understand it, and we could get more information for you guys, but the way I understand it, a young student can choose to go pass-fail. They have to make that decision only by August the 7th. But some of our guys that might be needing a certain GPA to be eligible by staying on track for their degree might not be available, or it might not be in their best interest to go pass-fail. So that's something that our academic people are looking at. Right now, learning to take classes online and being able to be tested online, take tests online, all of those are unique and new things for us. We took an extra 2 weeks instead of starting spring practice to make sure that we would be stronger going into spring practice. Do we lose strength at this time? Probably, because we don't have the same availability. Your guys that are really dedicated and work hard all the time will probably be fine. The ones that slack off some when they're on campus are probably going to do the same. academically and in the strength program, and they don't have the same nutrition here. So if a guy's too heavy and we had to really work with him, or too light, he needed to eat more because they had really bad habits, that's all on them and their parents now. So all of those things are things that are of risk, and unless we can get the guys back on campus this summer, if we don't see them again until we start the fall, all these will be things that we're going to have to really evaluate before we can put a guy on the field.
All right, Greg, did I see you? Greg Barnes, go ahead.
You mentioned some of the kids going home, maybe their parents have lost a job. We know in the past there's typically been an issue of kids not having money to get food that they need, and that's been a topic of conversation with NCAA. Has there been any NCAA guidance in terms of helping kids that are having to go back home to dire situations?
Greg, there really hasn't been through the NCAA as far as I know, but Kevin Gustowitz, Bubba Cunningham, our compliance office, Rick Steinbacher, Corey Holliday, they've been superstars. And I will say that the number one concern of all of those people has been the health and well-being of our student athletes, period. So we were able to get their scholarship checks to them immediately. The rooms have already been paid for, but they get money for their meals and they're not here. So we had to get those checks to them immediately, and that's a hard thing to do, to find them where they are. The campus asked that anyone living in the dorm come back and get their stuff out of the dorm. So some of them were able to come back and pick up their checks, but others had to have their checks sent to them. So finding them, helping them find a place to work out, helping them try to find nutritional food and what to eat. Coach Hess and his whole strength staff are doing online workouts this afternoon with the whole team. And they're going to do 2 workouts. They're going to do one with weights and one without. So I think, Greg, more than anything else, I'm really, really proud of the way our staff and the university has stepped up to try to help these kids. And it's been more about them than even money right now, because the financial situation for athletic directors and athletic programs are going to change through all this. And it's going to put a tremendous burden on a lot of them. And we're lucky to be at a place where Bubba is still standing up and doing what's right by these kids. And I'm very, very proud of him for that.
Gang, just one thing to add on that. Please make sure to include that the workouts that Ryan Hess and the strength staff are doing are all voluntary. Okay?
Yeah, they have to be. It's a little bit strange. We'd be in spring practice. So I don't know why they all would have to be voluntary at this time, but they said discretionary periods, and our coaches can't watch them online. So I'm a little confused there, but that's okay.
JB, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, I want to go back to the mental aspect of what your student athletes have to deal with. Have you kind of figured out, which players on your team will be able to help you with those younger players who are dealing with this? I mean, everybody's dealing with this for the first time. Nobody's ever been through this. But it's probably going to be a little bit more difficult for maybe incoming freshmen or like those younger veterans to deal with this, or those younger players to deal with this compared to your juniors and seniors. How much are you relying on them to help communicate to those teammates who might really be going through it and might really be, desperate to just kind of like get things back to normal? How are you using your teammates for that?
JB, we're really leaning on them. We're leaning on our coaches first and our staff members to be great leaders for their own families, because this is different. We're homeschooling now as such. And so what's that routine like? And how does the coach who can't come in the office, they're scattered all over the place, how do they work? And how do they get their routine done? And when their little kids crawling all over them, Coach Longo's got twins crawling all over him, how does he recruit? And so we've reached out, and each of our coordinators has staff meetings during the week that I'm not involved with, or I could be if I wanted to, but they can have them without me. Each coach reaches out to the individual players. We still have what we call Weld Hill Wednesdays, and that's where we bring in motivational speakers. I'm going to see if I can start sending them a motivational quote every morning to get their day started. But there's absolutely no doubt that the kids that didn't work as hard here will be the ones that are going to struggle in this format. I was on a call like this with 22 of our leadership committee members last week. And I told them, you know who the guys are. You know who really struggles. You know, some don't even have good internet access. So how do they go online for a class until we can get them to get to a library, and the libraries are closed? So we've got some things that we're really dealing with each young student athlete. But I do feel like this is the time where you find out who your leaders are and who your strong-willed guys are, and they've got to step up and help the others. I did talk to KJ Binkley the other day, and he's obviously an early enrollee, and I said, I'm really sorry that you didn't get your spring practice, and I hope it's still okay you came early. And his response was, Coach, it was great. I gained 20 pounds. I got to learn how to lift and stretch with Coach Hess. I learned how to go to college. So I'm really, really lucky that I had that couple of months before all this happened to get me more ready for next fall. So the response that I've gotten from so many of the coaches is that the kids are doing great. They're being positive. They're stepping up. Don Chapman, for instance, went to Mississippi to spend time with his sister. He's from San Diego. Number one, it's hard to pay for a ticket to get back to San Diego. So he's going to stay here, and he's going to get in a room with Miles Wolford. And he also, the difference in scheduling for his classes would have been so early there if he had an 8 o'clock class in San Diego. Patrice Rene went home. He's in Canada, so he's trying to rehab his knee. The clinic was closed that he was going to work. So we're really having to try to work through all these situations, and it's keeping us busy. But I do think we're feeling and seeing great leadership from our staff, from our coaches, and from our team. And it's never been more important right now for me to have hired a great staff and be able to lean on these people, because they're out there by themselves having to do a lot of this work.
Jonathan Alexander, go ahead.
Oops. Oh, hey, hey, Mack. I was wondering, how have you been able to keep in contact with everyone on your team and your staff as far as their health is?
Don, we've got our trainer Luke Ross and his staff have talked to all the kids. Our coaches are reaching out to the kids daily because I've asked them to make sure that they over communicate, as I said earlier. So right now everybody seems to be healthy. We've told them we're concerned about families like Jacoby Criswell getting back to Arkansas. He's actually staying right now with John Copenhaver. So we've got some really unique situations right now where families are taking care of each other and people are reaching out. But as far as we know, everybody's healthy, and like I said, I'm proud of the way they're trying to fight through this.
Andrew Jones, go ahead.
Are there any concerns about the kids that you've signed that have not enrolled yet finishing their requirements academically in high school?
Andrew, it's a good question. Thank goodness we've got a lot of the guys were in great academic shape, and obviously 13 of them came in early. You always have a few that need to finish strong, and now we're looking at they are still having the ACT and SAT available if some guys need that at the end. But the fact that all the high school kids now, or most of the high school kids, have to go back online, they're taking classes online today again, many of them for the first time. So it's unique in all the areas because we can't help them academically. We can't get them counselors. We So we've got to lean on them to step up and be strong, and we've got to lean on the high school coach and their faculty to make sure that their teaching is right. And I'm sure I'd never heard the word Zoom till last week, and here I am. I'm spending more time with Zoom than I am Sally. So, and actually, my daughter is a professor at UVA, and she's the one that said, "Dad, you're going to have to get on Zoom." And I said, "What's Zoom?" And she said, "It's really cool. You'll really like it." So we're all having to learn things, and every high school student athlete that I've talked about Zoom, and it's all coming for them now too. So there will be different ways for them to learn, and they're just going to have to step up and do it. It's unique times call for unique actions, and we've talked to every one of them and said, you've got to step up and you've got to do more than your professor's going to ask you, or your high school teacher's going to ask you to do. And very honestly, they're going to have to do that to do well in college. So they've got to read more and make sure that they finish strong.
Ross Martin, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. You mentioned the online workouts, scheduled online workouts with the team and Coach Brian Hess. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit more and what they look like and how that's kind of structured for y'all and what Coach Hess is kind of focusing on with the workouts while everybody's away? Thank you.
Ross, it's a great question. I'm not really sure what it looks like. The way I understand, it's just like this. You all would see him working out, and if you wanted to, you can do the workouts with him. That's what I can see. They told us we can't be online, we can't watch them. So we pretty much just got to leave it to Brian and his staff. And talking to Brian, I think all of his staff is doing the workouts so the kids can see, and probably they have to divide up into different groups. And I thought it was very smart of him to say, when guys said, the high school gym's closed, the weight room's closed, my workout area is closed. I can't afford to go to a workout area. So now he's actually getting them to get backpacks and lift and put them on their back and do push-ups and get water bottles full. I think it would be very good, Jeremy, for Brian to be available for this group so they could actually ask him, but because it probably is stuff, Ross, that'll help all of us that are kind of stuck at home now and need workouts, because it's not everybody's got a gym at home, and most people don't even have barbells, a lot of them, and so he is creating workouts to make it work for kids, and instead of saying, I don't have a place to work out, man, I'm going to be weak, he's really overcome that and made it where it's okay and can work in other areas.
Sammy Batten, go ahead.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I can't hear anything.
Okay. Can you hear me now, Mack?
Yes, great, Sammy. Thank you.
Yeah, just you've gotten off to such a great start recruiting the 2021 class. How do you keep that momentum going now with this break? And also with guys missing their pro days, are you doing anything as a staff to kind of help them get that extra attention that pro day would have provided?
Yeah, both are great questions. That I thought, what an awful time for this for all of us, and how selfish of me to think I'm missing spring practice and I'm down for that. And we had so much more momentum going in recruiting, and we don't need to slow down now. We've got all these new facilities going and wanted to show them to recruits, and we had so many people set up to come in. And really and truly, this is so much bigger than that for all of us, because we got people that can't eat and people that are really sick and fighting for their life. And so we all need to do everything possible to help us get through this awful virus as fast as we can. And then about the time I thought, Sammy, that we weren't going to be able to keep our momentum in recruiting, we have 3 guys commit in a day and a half period. I had to space them out and say, well, let everybody have their own day, so they can announce it. So let's hold him till tomorrow and hold him till the next day. And 3 guys popped immediately. So there's a couple of really good advantages for us that I feel like, Sammy. Number one, we recruit in a footprint from basically DC to Atlanta, and all of those kids can drive here. So we're really close to home with everybody that we're talking to. And when you recruit that close to home and you have a crisis like this, I think parents really would rather their kids stay close to home. So if something comes up, they can get home more easily. And so I think that's an advantage for us. The other thing is we don't recruit that many guys. We look at who we want and what we want, and we're really heavy recruiting in the state. So a lot of people are still recruiting 100 guys. We're recruiting 30 to try to get 20. And so that helps us, I feel like, because we're so involved on a day-to-day basis with these kids that we have a lot more communication with them. So I do feel like that the recruiting is going to be okay, and that it may slow down some guys. A guy the other night that committed actually said, I wanted to come and do it in person, but that looks like that might be May or June now. So I can't wait that long. I need to do it now. So we're recruiting as if it was February, where it was a dead period. And they can call you, they can FaceTime you, you can be on Zoom with their family, but you can't contact them other than text or letter or email. So we're pretty much just going back to the same position we were in February and continuing to recruit hard.
Matt Merschel, go ahead.
Hey, Mack, thanks for doing this.
You're welcome.
I just want to ask, you talked a little bit about nutrition, some of the nutrition needs you guys are trying to address, and some of the mental health. How much of a concern is there that your players maybe will kind of drift away from some of the good habits that come through that nutrition and maybe taking care of themselves?
It's a real concern. And again, the ones that you had concerns with here with nutrition are the ones that you'll have concerns with at home. And that's why we have to really call on the player to step up if he wants to play and be healthy. And at the same time, we have to call on the parents and the high school coach and the people around him. If you're a guy that overeats and we're not around, then you can eat yourself out of having a chance to play. So I really feel like we're going to find out who is disciplined enough to handle all of this and put themselves back in positions to play better. This will be an advantage for the disciplined kids that can handle things themselves. And there's a lot of addictions with eating, and some people just eat too much. And if we're not there and they can't do that, they come back in really heavy, it's just going to cost them opportunities to play. So I feel like more than anything else, the strength, the conditioning, the running, the workouts, the nutrition, the rehabilitation, I'm worried about more than probably anything else other than depression and anxiety, because if a guy doesn't have a place to rehab his hurt knee, what does he do? And that's where Brian and Luke Ross are finding unique and ways to create ways for them to get stronger with a knee that they're trying to rehab. So I think what we've got is it's more on the players than ever before to be a player-led team. And they're going to have to step up and take care of their own self if they want to get back to a position where they can play. As far as depression and anxiety, I'm sorry, but as far as that's concerned, it's obviously the biggest concern. I mean, I'm having to, since I have no interest outside of sports and my faith and my family, I got none. I mean, none. I'm finding out that my life is that it's empty without so many of these things. So I've got to be able to fill my days with you all and players and things, or I also have to create some new interest. And they're going to have to do the same thing. The thing they do have is they've got their school to try to get back in a routine with, and that's what we're trying to do today to get them back to where they would be in a similar routine if they were on campus.
Austin Bean, you're up.
Thanks again, Mack, for sharing some time with us. I know you've been coaching college football for a long time. Is there anything in your college coaching career, that can kind of compare somewhat to this situation that's going on? And what are some, personal changes that you've had to make as a coach, not being able to be there on campus every day and be with the kids?
Yeah, first, I think the only thing that I could relate to that was similar to this, especially when it started, was 9/11. I was at Texas. I remember somebody walking in and saying, "Coach, there's a tragic thing that happened. A plane hit the Twin Towers," and then they said it hit the Pentagon. And we had President Bush's twin daughters on the campus there at the University of Texas, and we didn't know. Nobody knew at that time what was going to happen, so there was a real panic over, would the university be blown up? Would the capital of Texas be blown up? Were they after President Bush? What was really happening? And we got all of our players over to our offices immediately. We got them downstairs. We tried to find their parents. We had Chris Sims, whose dad Phil was from New Jersey and working in New York, so we were trying to find parents and brothers and sisters. And but that one, we at least it changed the way we do things. It changed our lives. But we knew there was an end at a certain point. We had an open date. We actually played football the next weekend. Not that weekend, but the next one. This one, the concerns for this are the unknowns. How long will it last? When do the kids get to come back? What about recruiting? And I think that's why we just have to prioritize our families, our health, and then our players. And that's what I've had to do. I've had to put everything on the back end. We had one of our children was in Iceland, and we were worried about them getting back with grandkids. So they got back safe, but then they got in New York and had trouble getting back to Austin. So you handle your own family situations, and then at the same time, I've stayed at the house. I've stayed in Chapel Hill. I've got to stay where there's really strong internet. We have a house in the mountains. I can't go up there right now because the internet's not as strong there, and I need the ability to talk to players, coaches, staff, you guys at all time. So what I'm doing is trying my best to get in a routine like I would be here. And I have certain times that I'm going to contact recruits and certain times that I'll text players, just like Don Chapman the other night. I was worried about him, and I just texted and said, "Where are you? Are you okay?" And with Wisdom Asabura, he's from Nigeria and can't get home. So he's got a host family in Asheville. So I saw Wisdom the other day and said, "What are we doing? Are you trying to stay in the dorm?" Or so we've had so many things to do this week because we're sitting there on spring break, and I'm getting ready to watch the Texas Tech basketball game, and all of a sudden everything's shut down there within an hour. And we're supposed to have spring practice the next Tuesday, and then everything changes. And in a 24-hour period, we were going to have a staff meeting, I think maybe the Thursday before all this really happened. And Bub and I were talking about it. We went from having the staff meeting in our staff room to moving upstairs on the 5th floor where you could stay 6 feet apart to moving it to Zoom within a 24-hour period. So this has all just happened so quickly. It feels like to me we've been doing this for 8 weeks, and it's been about 10 days to 2 weeks. So I think the biggest difference in this one for me is that we've got a pretty good handle on what's happening right now with us and our routine. The biggest problem is you're not sure when it ends, and we can't get those answers at this point.
Deanna King, you're up. Can we hear you, Deanna? Deanna, for whatever reason, you won't unmute, so we can't hear you. Try and hit unmute again.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Good.
Coach, how important is it to have a guy like Kevin Donnelly, a guy that's been a fixture in football in all phases in North Carolina, from high school to college to professional?
Yeah, the more we can sell that it's a 40-year experience instead of a 4, it helps us in recruiting. And Kevin's a guy who played for us, so he played with the Tommy Thigpens and the Rick Steinbachers and Corey Holiday. So they're all friends. They know each other. I'm not sure the magic of this place to the people that went to school here, played here, but they absolutely love the place. And when we interviewed Kevin, there were a lot of great candidates, but here's a guy who'd been a high school coach. He's a 13-year NFL guy. He'd been at UNC Charlotte in a role very similar to this, but loves the place. And he went through the experience with us, and he's a graduate that played in the NFL. So to reach out and tell our story to high school coaches, to reach out and tell our story to parents and recruits that are coming in, he's just another great example of if you come here and you do what you're supposed to do, that it can really help you for the long haul. So I'm really excited. It's unique that our coaches are scattered all over the country. I mean, there's no reason for them to be here because they can't see anybody. So Kevin will stay in Charlotte, and he'll start doing his job today from down there. He's going through an orientation program online today. So it's unique to take a job and can't even come to campus. But I really am excited about Kevin being another piece of this puzzle moving forward. Mark Hamilton did an outstanding job for us. But now Kevin will take what he did and build upon it.
Luke Buxton.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, we've talked about a lot of negatives that have come out of this, pandemic. On a lighter side, are there any positives that are going on, whether it's resting, family, that you can take away from this situation?
Luke, it's another great question. I think we're all looking at things from different perspectives now. I walk every day, and I walk for a couple of miles, and I'm seeing more families out than ever before walking because families are forced to be at home. In fact, I was out walking yesterday with the dog, and some little kid wanted to run up and hug the dog, and I thought, you can't even shake hands with a dog anymore because it'll be too close. But and walking through the neighborhoods, I'm hearing a lot of dads and sons and brothers and sisters out back playing basketball and throwing a football and riding bikes. And so there's absolutely no doubt that this is a time to be at home and take care of your family and have more family time together. And I've told our coaches that they've got to reorganize their families, that their kids have certain school hours that they have to do their schoolwork. And you've got certain hours that you have to work on football for UNC. And then we can have the family. But I also think, Luke, it's forcing all of us, meaning me, our staff, to research more electronics, like situations like being able to Zoom with our team. And this will help us on spring break and in the future. There'll be times that we can use pieces like this that we wouldn't have known about until this came up. And from another standpoint, the players are having to learn to go to school online. They may want to do this in their graduate work. Maybe they can do this while they're playing pro football. So there are some things that we'll take out of this. I know that with the shortage of food and toilet paper and paper to wipe our hands and sanitation, all that, I'm being a lot more cautious with everything I do and trying to be smarter with portions that we eat and how we handle things. And when you do go to the grocery store, and obviously we'll all be more cautious with germs moving forward and be safer for our kids. So and hopefully we'll learn enough about this virus that we can be more prepared next time something comes up, because we're going to have crisis in our society moving forward, and our children and our grandchildren are going to, they will see different sides of things than we do.
Kiera Luck, you're up.
Hi, Coach. You kind of just hit on my question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. You kind of just hit on my question, referring to how important social media and virtual interaction has been for your team, and how moving forward, different things like this will be implemented into your program.
Yes, it's Jeremy and I and Billy Hine and Becca have talked a lot about social media and right now what's appropriate. You got to be careful because we've got some really serious stuff going on, and we're losing people. We're having people die and people getting very sick. So we've got to balance what's appropriate, what can be funny, what can we enjoy. Like Jeremy and Becca posted something the other night was social distancing when De'Ami Brown was out running cornerbacks, and I thought, it's really funny, and it's really cool, and it's so I thought that was appropriate and fair, but we're all having to look at it. I told the coaches this morning in our staff in the staff meeting, keep a presence on social media, because our players need to hear from you if you don't talk to them every day, and they'll follow you, and recruits need to hear you and see that. I told them to TikTok seems to be something that's really funny right now that people are using. I've told them to look at it and see if they can do funny things for their players to make them laugh, and ask their players to come up with creative things. And Jeremy's doing that on both ends. I also told them I've embarrassed myself so many times nationally dancing that whatever I did wouldn't be an embarrassment. It can't get worse than what we saw in the fall. So, but I do think that social media is a good thing right now. We've got to be careful. I sit and watch TV too much with all of the things that are happening, and it seems like right now we're going to have more cases show up because we're testing more. And it's difficult to sit all day and see every negative thing about this virus come up. And so there needs to be some positive things on social media. And I've challenged Jeremy and his crew just to keep throwing it out there and having fun with it.
Greg, you're up.
Mack, I wanted to follow back up. You mentioned having proposed 10 days of some type of practice in the summer. Could you expand on that? Who did you make that proposal to? Was that an ACC coaches thing?
There's a lot of different people avenues that it looks at. I know that Bubba has talked to different ADs about it. I think it's been proposed to the NCAA. We're also talking to the AFCA about it. I think everybody's so overloaded right now, Greg, with school, and should guys get their years back, the athletes get their years back if they were in the spring sport, should they get their year back if they were in a winter sport? There's so many different things right now that the NCAA is considering, and I think obviously we've got to wait and see. Even though spring practice is canceled for the spring, what does that mean? Is there even a possibility for us to get back by June? So I don't think it's taken off at all. I think it's like the other things that are laying out there that are unknowns.
AJ, you're up.
Folk and a couple other guys, I guess, that are staying around Chapel Hill, do they have access to the facilities at all to do anything? And if you happen to, are you allowed to go over to the facilities? If you saw them, is that something that is allowed by the ACC? The other part of the question is, I know that in a week or so, the president and these people are going to kind of readdress either tightening some of the restrictions or perhaps loosening some of the restrictions. If they are loosened with some of the players that have apartments in Chapel Hill but are home right now, be allowed to come back and then use the facilities?
Right now, Andrew and Jeremy, you help me, nobody's over there. Everything's closed down. So Coach Hess is doing all his workouts online. the last week, I think the training room was open if guys were in town, but they were asked to come and get their stuff and go back home. So most of the guys did that. They're working on a few things in the building, but there's very few people in there. So every now and then, if I'm out, I'll stick my head in, but I walk in, I walk out. So we are not working at all in the building. Our building is shut down. Our receptionists are gone home. My assistant's gone home. They're all working from home. All the coaches are working from home. And in fact, Coach Lilly's back in Cleveland with his family. Coach DeWitt is in Myrtle Beach with his mother and dad. He's got to be so careful because of the cancer that he went through, and not being out where he could be sick, because it would be devastating for him to be sick so quickly. So guys are scattered everywhere. So it's we just basically have shut everything down, Andrew, and said do everything online from your house, from your apartment. They couldn't keep guys who have already paid for their apartments from coming back to Chapel Hill. But to my knowledge, very, very few have do that. Now, I know Sam Howell's got some player-led practices that they're doing while they're still being appropriate with social distancing in Charlotte. And I know some of the guys in Atlanta are working out together. So guys are getting out and working together, but none around here.
Andrew, basically, we're just following the guidelines that are presented to us by the administration and the university. So, like you said, we continue to address or reassess as we go. We'll reassess as we find out more moving forward.
And I think, Andrew, the way it was stated, Jeremy, was essential staff. So you've got people that can cut grass and do certain things, but I think that those are the only people that are working on campus. All of my meetings like this are from my house.
All right, we've got Ross Martin, and that'll be the last one.
All right. Couple questions here, Mack. Well, one big one. You mentioned Kevin Donnelly, and you talked about him a little bit before. Can you go into what his role will be and elaborate a little bit more on what his role will be for y'all at UNC? And then finally, do you think there's going to be a 2020 season? I mean, do you have any idea or any concept of what your opinion is or what you're hearing about summer or even the season taking place, and what's your opinion on that?
Yes, Ross. Again, you all, these are great questions, so thank you. Number one, we've tried to reestablish our department. So Chuko Jenajay is the player personnel development, and he works with the players on a daily basis, their housing, their meal checks, all of those type things. So he is the guy who the players go to and the parents go to for day-to-day needs. John Mark Hamilton's job was listed very similar. This job will be listed as the high school development. What do you have the name, Jeremy, of what exactly what it is?
Actual title is Director of High School Relations.
Director of High School Relations. And what he will do, Ross, is just that. He will be available to every high school coach for their needs. So if we've messed something up and made somebody mad and they call him, Kevin's got to come to us and get it straight. He will be in constant contact with the high school coaches and things like their tickets for ball games. He and Sparky Woods will be very involved in our clinics with the high school coaches and our camps. And at the same time, we send out a motivational quote every Monday to every high school. He'll still be involved with helping me pick that quote and send it out each time. He'll be in charge of helping me know who won the state championships if I miss it and I need to write a note to him. And he'll be in charge of anybody that retires or a new hire. So basically, he'll just be involved completely with everything high school coaches. And that's something that we feel very, very strong about, especially with our in-state guys, because we want to have constant contact with the high school coaches in this state. Your second question was?
Yeah. I mean, what do you think and what are you hearing about the 2020 season happening, or even the summer workouts? And I mean, is there anything, I'm sure you talk to a lot of coaches and have discussions that we aren't, privy to.
And Ross, I have my own opinions, which are basically based on what I just see and hear. Talking to coaches really have no clue. I mean, there is a fear of fall. And there is a fear of, would we have a season? Would we have a partial season? What does a partial season mean? There's a great concern because of the revenue that comes in with football. If we don't have a fall or full fall, what does that do to our athletic departments across the country? And we've still got to pay cost of attendance. We still got to pay scholarships, but we don't have any money coming in. And football is the provider in most of those cases. In my simple mind, what I'm hoping, I hear the NCAA say no recruiting till April 15th. I hear the CDC say that we're not going to have near normal activity again, is what I heard, until May 9th. I'm hoping that May 9th may be a time where we at least have a feel of where we are, what's happening, and the federal government, the CDC, the NCAA gets us a plan moving forward for the summer. I've still got some activities late April that are not canceled yet. And most of the things I had scheduled through May are canceled. But there's still a couple of people that say, I want to wait till middle of April and kind of see where we are. I've told our coaches to not plan on being back at least for the next 2 weeks till April 5th. And then maybe even by, again, April 15th, we have some more information. Everything I hear, we're going to have worse numbers this week than we've had, just because things are going to get better before they get worse. But you look at China, seems to have really slowed down, and there's a lot fewer people getting sick with the virus now than there were 4 months ago. And hopefully, since we're further removed from some of the other countries, that we'll be able to have more information and move more quickly than others. So my feeling is I'm planning on us possibly having some summer work. I'm planning on all of our guys coming back for the if not the first session of summer school, the second session. And I'm planning on us starting a regular preseason and playing all of our games. And that's just that's the mindset I've got right now. And obviously, I have no one in positions of power outside of our world here at the university. That is totally an opinion of mine, nobody else. But that's what I'm telling our coaches to prepare for. And then if anything is adjusted beyond that, then obviously we can adjust down a lot easier than we can adjust up.
Thanks, Coach. That was great.
Thank you.
All righty. Thanks, everyone. We're going to wrap it up. Appreciate y'all being here. Obviously,